And welcome to this week's TimTomTalk. Hello, Dr. Tom.
Hello, Mr. Tim. How you doing, Australia?
I'm
So,
okay.
okay. Well, hello, everybody. We are, at least in the U.S., we're fighting a bit of the Delta virus. It's different depending on where you live and how much you're being affected. In Australia, you guys are in lockdown again. Fun stuff. So we thought this week, talking about uncertainty and wellness and how that interacts is going to be great. And you can tell how it's affecting Tim just by his beard and his hair. His beard's long.
I trimmed my beard, right? Tom made some very sarcastic comments about my facial hair yesterday. So I even trimmed in preparation for this, and he's still getting at me. There you go. But yes, I do have
you did trim.
hair.
You did. Oh yeah, you don't look as much like, a lumberjack. Yeah. He lives in the woods and he wants to look like he's in the woods.
This is true. I do live in the woods. They're beautiful. Okay, so yeah. So Australia, we've got wave upon wave of Delta lockdowns really prevailing in a lot of cities. Some in and out of snap lockdowns. Some like Sydney, just up the road from me. Really just enduring an ongoing slog through lockdown.
I am listening to him. I'm just struggling
with your background. So, what is? I'm going to take over while you do that.
Yeah,
right. So while he plays with himself in the background, this is causing an enormous amount of uncertainty, and amongst our community, clients that we're coaching and running learning programs with, it's very, very prevalent that rest right now is being impacted in a significantly negative way. Now, Tom and I have been talking about trust, uncertainty, and well-being as independent topics over the last few months, and now we're going to start to co-join them into flow. So let's talk about uncertainty and well-being. What we're not going to do in this episode, because we wanted to make this kind of applicable and actionable, is talk about some of the neuroscience and psychology behind uncertainty and why it impacts on well-being the way that it does. We're going to do that next week. Today, we're going to focus specifically on rest, because this is something that's been flagged by a number of people that they're really struggling with. Are you done with your background? There you go. He's back. So that's what we're going to do today. We got some feedback, some good feedback about the little snippets that we shared last time. So we're going to do a little bit more of that. But just before we do, Tom, in your work, obviously with stress, where does rest sort of feature, and how does rest impact on and is sort of stress is managed by? Like, what's that relationship between rest and stress for you? Check your microphone, my friend.
Oh yeah. I turned it down when I was.
We're good at this, right? We got this whole production thing down pat.
Yes. This is making you feel like you're in our homes. We are talking with you. We are inviting you into how it is. And this is, look, you know what? It's technology. We're talking across an ocean. He's in the southern hemisphere. I'm in the northern hemisphere, and we're both uncertain. We're both having sleep issues. We're both stressed. It's almost like there's a reciprocal process of stress and non-sleep, and that is, if you're not sleeping, you're probably not regenerating yourself enough. You're not rested enough. So things are coming at you faster, and you're not dealing with stress. Stress is like a ball. It just keeps growing unless you deal with it. And we don't have time to deal with it. So we push it aside. And as we become more stressed, we tend to lose sleep because we have more anxiety. We're thinking about things. We're worried about things. And it's this reciprocal process of it. Both keep giving to each other, but until you start addressing them both separately and together, it's just going to continue to be reciprocal. It's not going to go away.
And I think I can totally and utterly So put my hand up and say, yep, last year, categoric fail in resting as part of the process, right? Not saying, well, when I'm done, I'll rest. It's like a serious athlete with a serious training schedule. Like, you have rest days programmed in. They're not an excuse. They're not a nice to do. Like, they're part of the schedule for a reason. This might be a good point just to sort of flick to some of the stuff I wanted to share very quickly. Not death by PowerPoint, don't worry. But just from Adam Grant.
On this Adam Grant, which you're going to show right now, I had actually did a series of posts in my deconstructing stress group on specifically these points of, giving yourself permission to rest. Choosing to relax is an action. Choosing to take time to take care of yourself is an action. So when you think you're not doing anything by relaxing on the sofa because you're trying to push everything else away, you're actually in action of doing something that matters to rejuvenate yourself so you can be effective later. But let me let you go into this.
Oh, no, it's all good. I mean, look, big fan of Adam Grant's work. For those of you who don't know, I'll just put this on full screen. Adam is an organizational psychologist at Wharton, which is a very, very prestigious university in the States. He's written some stuff and he hosts some stuff. So if you're not aware of Adam, please check him out. He's a very serious dude, serious about the kind of stuff that we're serious about. Rest is not a waste of time. It's an investment. It's a source of energy. Is for refocusing attention. And this thing about play, we're going to come to this in a little bit more detail in a minute with a specific resource that I've really benefited from, and I think will be something to recommend as well. But play is a path to connection and creativity. I really, really like that. I thought that was really important.
And it's I mean, I just used this weekend. I was working on a client and trying to help them define they're launching a new business and helping them define what how they're going to support nonprofits. And part of my process where I do my best work is read it, walk away, do something I like, have fun, think about it, go, I wonder, there's something missing there for me. Go back, do some relaxation, completely disengage, come back. Today, got her on the phone. I was talking. I said, boom, completely fell into place because it gave, and it's actually the process we talked about and did videos on based on Adam Grant's work last year or the year before, actually.
It was probably, I mean, so what Tom's describing there is what's known as the default mode from a neuroscience perspective. So this is this whole notion of sleep on it, but work is actually being done. That can happen while you're awake as well, as long as you're not consciously focusing on the thing. The brain will actually keep doing the work. It's part of evolutionary psychology, is the reason why we can handle these tasks while we're not focusing on them. But without going down that rabbit hole, and we'll try and find those videos and add them in the notes. Here's the next thing that we wanted to flag, which is there are 7 different types of rest as flagged by this doctor. It's a good TED talk. So we'll put a link to this in the channel notes as well. But think about that, right? How often do you just sleep thinking that you're resting your body and your mind? Okay, that's just 2. That's the 2 at the top. I mean, Tom and I talk about particularly the creative rest. Despite being, sort of organizational behavioral scientists in effect, we create a lot of stuff, and not just, live streaming, creating programs, creating resources for clients, ideating, innovating. These are creative processes, and you need downtime from those processes in order to rejuvenate and restore them. Emotional rest, especially with the amount of emotional turbulence and upheaval that there is in the world right now. How about sensory rest? So here's why actually lying on the couch with the TV off is a good idea, because you don't need that constant sensory stimulation, especially when you're Zooming all day as your main, sort of workflow. Social rest, actually getting away from social networks and or time with friends. I was talking with my wife about this the other day. She feels a lot of her space with conversations with friends. Very necessary, very beneficial, but you also need rest from that as well. And spiritual rest, whether that is more time in that space or a little bit of a break away from it if it's something that's a big part of your life. I just thought this was really, really interesting. Tom, what would you like to add on this?
Well, what I'd like to add is part of emotional rest for me, since I'm somebody who struggles with depression, and we just talked about this last week. I go through these bouts where I can tell where it's a physical depression, and instead of fighting it, and instead of having emotional reactions, being self-aware when I'm in that mode, and taking myself and just saying, I need to take rest on this specific thing and be desensitized emotionally, basically, to be able to let that process in a positive way. And by doing that, I process faster and I get through that physical reaction faster because I honor what I'm going through. And that's so important when we, in any form of these rests, it's to honor that you actually want to do good stuff. You want to do good work. You want to be a good person in society, and you want to create things. And to be able to do so, trust yourself that you will, and that by taking these rests, you'll actually be more effective and do them better. That was it. Are you talking? Are you talking?
No, I just did what you did before. Too funny. We will practice in advance next time. Why would we? This is so much more funny and hopefully enjoyable for you too, whoever's watching this. So yes, the final resource. So there's a TED Talk, as I mentioned. It's well worth a look. We'll put a link to it in those noties. But also Brene Brown. Right, dear Brene, I can't say our friend Brene because she doesn't know who the heck we are. You're muted again. This is just funny.
Oh, I love her work. Yeah. I was saying, I actually did. I went to something with her assistant. Oh yeah. It was an organizational development network here in the States, and her assistants. I went through the introduction of that.
Okay.
It was, I love her work anyway.
So we love Brene, and lots of great stuff. Now, one of our team, Sean Gray, fabulous person, hey Sean, in Brisbane, he shared this episode from her Unlocking Us podcast, which was actually broadcast a year ago. And there was some really, really valuable stuff, which now, interestingly, somewhat ironically, painfully, is still relevant, if not more relevant to certain parts of this country and the world than it was a year ago, which is when you are deep in the very, very bowels of the most sort of painful definition of uncertainty. Something to be aware of is this particular term, not Brené's term, but this term surge capacity. Okay. So what this is essentially your body's reserve of energy and ability to focus and remain critical in your thought. There's a finite limit to that. And then you need to rest, restore it, and then you can go again. And this gets sort of depleted over time every time you use it. And you need to elongate the amount of rest in between. So when you're in perpetual uncertainty, that capacity just gets depleted again and again and again. So if you're interested in that, Google surge capacity. After, I would suggest listening to this podcast. In the show notes of this podcast, she cites a researcher who's done a lot of work in this space.
And you may want to add psychology surge capacity in there, because surge capacity, you'll also get
electricity and all kinds of stuff. Good point, Dr. Tom. Good point. Energy and play, and just this is a specific quote lifted out of the podcast. Right? So play being time spent without a specific purpose to refuel and reconnect us, and that might be reconnect to yourself, reconnect to your partner, reconnect to your kids, your friends, your community, whoever it is. I will put my hand up. I use the terms fun. But at the end of last year, I essentially declared that my year had been devoid of fun and or play, and that I really recognized the deficit of that and
he
what it
represented that by the end of the year.
Indeed. So yeah, I think, specific resources from today, if any of this has landed for you, we'll add the TED Talk in the notes. We'll add, there's a podcast link I'll put in as well. Please explore both of these. I think that's about a wrap for us. We're going to talk some more about the neuroscience and psychology of uncertainty and why it impacts on well-being next week. So if you like this, show up for that. Anything final from you, Tom, before we sign off for this week?
Yeah, when are we going to start talking about inclusion and wellness?
Probably a week after.
Yeah, because we're so excited about our diversity, inclusion.
If that topic is of interest to you and you can't wait for a fortnight's time, you could check out the latest Better World Leaders conversation with Sandra D'Souza, where we go long into all things inclusion, diversity, and equity, because that's her realm of expertise. And this guy, Dr. Tom, he knows a thing or two about it as well. All right. Thank you, everybody. See you all again in a week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.